review of the Sordin Supreme T2. You'll have to excuse my non-professional setup. As you can tell, the camera angle's pretty crap, but it's the only tripod I've got. I can't get a top-down view or anything like that, so I did notice that there's a serious lack of information of this new product from Sordin online. I think they were at a conference maybe a year or two ago, but there's been no reviews I can find on YouTube. There's a Reddit with people asking thoughts and opinions on the product, but there's not been any reviews at all that I've been able to find. So I think Sordin have done a really bad job at marketing this headset. I mean, I think it's been out for a while now, maybe even a year, and I've only just heard about it just after Christmas of 2025. So yeah, so I thought I'd do a review. I'll have to apologise for my crappy camera setup. I have a tripod. I don't have any professional equipment to do proper angles and stuff, but I'm going to do my best to give a rundown of this product. So before I start, I'll just speak about what I've done to test this headset. So I did get this headset 2.5 weeks ago. There's an unboxing video that I'm going to include. That was recorded when I got it, and since then I've played Airsoft for a full day twice. I've been to a shooting range. I've not got to fire any firearms, unfortunately, but I've been close by to people that are firing shotguns. And I've also took the dog for a walk, basically just to test the comfort and play around with the different settings. I've also been in my workshop, which is about 3 meters square, and it's a good place to test flashbangs. So in Airsoft we have things like this, which generate probably about 128 decibels worth of sound. That's probably higher than that when you take into account the echoes of the wall. I've also got these 9mm primers that I've been detonating in my workshop just to test the various different modes of the headset. So I'm going to break this video down into chapters. I've got the unboxing, I've got an overview, I'm going to talk about the modes, I'm going to do a comparison to my previous generation of a headset, which is the Sordin Supreme Pro X. I know these are not a direct comparison because I think these are more a comparison to the new X2s rather than the T2, but it's what I have at hand. And then I'm going to talk about the pros and cons and then give you my final thoughts. So yeah, let's go on with the unboxing. So I'm just going to do a quick overview of the headset and just talk about external features. Uh, the headband's a lot smaller on the newer generation. It's a lot thinner, should I say. There's no bumps in it as well, so it is a lot more comfortable on your head if you're wearing it directly on your head. I tend to wear it over a cap now because that's what I'm used to, but it is a lot more comfortable. The cabling is no longer sewn into the headband either. It's got these little clips which you can just pop the cable off and then switch out to a different mounting solution. So if you want to go to an arc rail for an helmet or neckband, it's much easier to do that now. Before you needed like a special tool to get off the headband, but now it's got I think their marketing term for it is their flex system. So you can easily pop these off, pop the cable off, and switch to a different mounting solution. So yeah, the headband definitely an improvement. This side, not really much to talk about. There is the ability to have the microphone mounted on either side. Got the mounting points for that. Battery. So anyone who's got the old model knows that it's a real pain to switch the battery out. You've got two AAA batteries in here. Unscrew this, one battery for that, and then you need to give this a smack at the bottom to get the second battery out. And especially when the headset was new, it was a bit of a pain. New system, vastly improved. You just twist this, pull that off, and then the battery's out. So it does support a AA battery, or you can get the rechargeable battery that Sordin make. I'm not too sure exactly what size it is, but I think it's one of these 3.2 volt batteries. So yeah, so switching batteries out, much easier now. You can see how much easier that is, even at this dodgy angle that I'm working at currently. I've been able to do that. The pads, these are now a memory foam. I'm not exactly sure what material came on the old version, but it was just a standard foam. But these are, I'd say these are more comfortable than the pads that came on the original Supreme Pro X's, but they're not nearly as comfortable as the gel pads. So that's the one thing I'm going to be switching out. I've already got them on the way. I'm switching to the gel pads. I think that's pretty much it. Either the buttons. So the button configuration has changed slightly on this version. So on the front, the minus used to be at the front, and the plus volume increase used to be at the back, and then you got your power button mode selection in the middle. So yeah, that I think covers everything for the overview. So moving on to the modes now. So moving on to the modes, there are 4 available on the T2, which are tactical mode, comfort mode, dual mode, and ambient off. So starting off with the last one, ambient off, it's pretty much what it says on the tin. All ambient noise is turned off. My personal usage for this is at airsoft sites. In the safe zone, there tends to be power generators, and I absolutely hate the sound of power generators. So with the old headset, I would usually just turn the headset off just to dim the noise. But problem with that is then you struggle to hear what people are saying. With the ambient off, you can pretty much get rid of the sound of the engine or the motor and still be able to hear what people are saying. So I have used that in safe zones, but I guess if you are in the military, if you've got engines around you or whatever, or if you're working near planes or anything like that, having the ability to dim the sound of the motors would be beneficial. Going back up for the list, we've got dual mode. So this, I would not recommend using this if you're moving around. This mode boosts all the sound. So if you're walking through the woodland, you hear every single twig snap and everything really loudly. So my personal usage for this has been when I'm guarding a position and I want to just stop and listen. So I know any sounds that I do hear, I can pay more attention to that. So it does give you a little bit of an advantage. I've been in rooms and stuff where I've heard people sneaking up towards the room. You can hear the BBs or whatever cracking under their feet. And I've turned around to my friend and said, "Oh, can you hear that?" And they can't hear it, but I can hear it very clearly. So yeah, but this mode, because it boosts the sound, if you are firing a gun or are going to be around explosions, I don't think it offers the same level of hearing protection that the other modes offer. I think even if I remember correctly on one of the videos I watched, it did say that if you're going to use this, then it's recommended that you have some earplugs in as well. For my personal use, since I'm just playing Airsoft, I don't tend to be around lots of explosions in it, or all the flashbangs that I mentioned before, but I've just basically switched that mode when I'm stationary, hiding in a base somewhere and trying to listen to any enemies approaching me. Next is the comfort mode. So this is, I'd say this mode is probably the most natural out of all of them. It's probably best for when you're like wanting to talk to people around you. It's not boosting any sounds or decreasing any sounds or anything like that. It's a natural mode. And then you've got tactical mode, which is I'd say it's your go-to mode. It basically offers the best level of hearing protection while still allowing you to have situational awareness. So that when you first switch on the headset, the mode that you go into by default is tactical mode. So how do you get into each of these modes? So you got your power button. Switch on the headset. It'll never load into dual or ambient off if they were your previous settings before, but it will load into either comfort or tactical modes. So when you switch it on, it'll load up and go into the last mode, provided it's either comfort or tactical. So it'll come on, it'll go to tactical mode, and if you want to switch to comfort mode, you just hit that power button once, and you'll hear the audio cue telling you which mode it's gone into. If you want to go into ambient off, on the side you've got the volume controls. You press the minus key 6 times and then hold the key a little bit, and then you'll hear it go ambient off. And then if you want to go into dual mode, it's the opposite way around. You press the volume up key 6 times, press and hold a little bit, and then you will go into the dual mode. So it's quite a straightforward system. And that's it. And then if you want to go back to either tactical or comfort, you just hit that mode button in the middle again, and you're good to go. So yeah, that's the modes. Next we're going to talk about the comparison. So how does the T2 compare to the previous generation, which in my case is the Sordin Supreme Pro X? So as I said before, I know these aren't a direct comparison, and the direct comparison would be the X2, but I've got the T2, so that's what we compare. So weight wise, on my scale, with the battery included, these were 530 grams, and the previous generation were 560 grams. So new headset, a little bit lighter. The headband, so on the old model, there are little grooves in this, so that's where the adjustment of the headset is. And because of that, I always found that it was quite uncomfortable if it was put directly on your head. The new one is smooth. The adjustment doesn't happen in the headband, and instead it happens here. So yeah, if you want to adjust the level that the ear pads are, you can unscrew this on both sides, and then you can basically push it up and down. I'm not going to adjust it because I've got them set to how I like them, but once you screw these down, that then locks it in position, and they're not going to move on you. So yeah, I'd say that the new adjustment system on the newer generation is a lot better than this, because I have accidentally adjusted these, I've pulled them off my head or whatever. I've heard them click, indicating that they have moved, and because there's little holes in there, they do get a little bit uncomfortable. That's why I started wearing them over the top of my cap, because of that. Next, the controls. So this is something where I think the previous version was slightly better. I do like on the old version that you've got the separated buttons. With gloves on, I found it so much easier to identify each button. On the newer generation, while you've got this little groove here, when you've got gloves on, it's not very easy to feel. And I'm not too sure why they decided to switch the buttons around, like the plus and the minus. So on the old one, I'm not sure if you're able to see this on the camera, but the minus is at the front and the plus is at the back. New generation, plus is at the front, minus is at the back. So I'm still getting used to this, and again, these buttons I will get used to over time, but my initial impression is that the old version buttons are better in terms of being able to feel them with gloves. I've constantly I'm going to change volume settings, and I'm constantly turning it down when I'm trying to turn it up, or I'm powering it off when I'm trying to just change the volume. So it's taking a little bit of getting used to. So what's next? The pads. So I think I've spoken about the pads a little bit already, but I'd say, yeah, the memory foam pads, they are comfortable, but over prolonged usage, so when I was taking the dog for a walk, which would tend to sometimes be 4 or 5 hours, they would get a little bit uncomfortable. It'd be like pressure points around the back of my ears. So it's all right in airsoft games and stuff, because you tend to be taking your headset off every 40 minutes or so. But when having them on for prolonged times, they do get uncomfortable. Not as bad as the pads that came on the original version. They used to just get my ears really sweaty, and yeah, they were really uncomfortable for me. But as you can see on my old generation, I've got the gel pads on this, and I've ordered the gel pads for the newer generation there en route, so I will be popping them on. And I do realise that the gel pads will offer slightly less noise suppression, but for my usage, I don't tend to be around massive explosions and firearms all the time, so I'm quite happy with the gel pads, and I'd rather sacrifice a bit of protection for comfort. What have we got next? Sound quality. It's difficult to explain sound quality. It's all down to personal preference, but with these ones, trying to explain it in the best possible way, the sound, while good, it doesn't sound very natural. It's very I'm not too sure how to explain it, other than saying that the sound quality on the new version it's a lot more crisp, way more clear. It feels more natural. It just sounds like the sounds are just being amplified where needed and dampened where they're not. I think when you first get these headphones, I think everyone does it. You put them on inside your house, and you can hear basically echoes off walls and stuff, and you can hear clothes rustling and stuff like that. Whereas on here, it sounds more of a sort of crackle is the best word I can think of right now. On here, it doesn't sound like a crackle at all. It sounds a lot clearer. And profile I guess is the next thing to talk about. So these are a lot smaller profile. So these are quite bulky. They stick out a lot more. The headband sticks out a lot more. So if you're using the firearm, getting close to that cheek well, it will be a lot easier with this headset, and it's something that, I'm considering getting rid of the risers that I have on all my guns. I tend to have these little risers on everything, and that was mostly because of getting close to the stock while wearing the headset. But I don't think I'll need that anymore with the newer version. So yeah, smaller profile, less weight, big improvement. So moving on to the pros and cons, I'm going to start with the negatives and then finish with the positives. I think the most obvious negative point of this headset is the price. Very expensive headset, and then that moves nicely into the next thing, which is the lack of a rechargeable battery or charger, which was included in the box. I really do think for the price, Sordin should have included this. It seems very penny pinchy on Sordin's half not to, and just instead to include a AA battery, which is not rechargeable. Not many other negatives to say. I think maybe as I've mentioned in the previous section about the pads, over prolonged use, they did get uncomfortable for me, but this is down to personal usage. For you, these pads might be absolutely perfect, but like I said, 3 or 4 hours, they did start to get there was quite a bit of a pressure point behind my ear. So I'm going to include that in the negative just to pad it out a little bit, because there aren't that many negatives that I can come up with for this headset. For the positives, is the sound quality is definitely a big improvement over the old version. I spoke a little bit about the sound being far more crisp in the newer version compared to the old. Then the headband's far more comfortable than the old one, and the ability to switch it out with different mounting solutions is great, and being able to do that without having to use tools as well. The battery as well, I like the flexibility of it just being a single battery now, rather than being double batteries, which need to be smacked out. As I demonstrated earlier in the video, you saw that I was able to get the battery out really quickly, and I was able to switch it out if needed. So there is a lot more flexibility with the batteries now. And then finally, for the positives, is the lower profile and the weight. So 30 grams lighter and a much smaller profile. So what are my final thoughts? So coming from the Sordin Supreme Pro X, I understand that the direct comparison in the newer generation is the X2, and it's probably not fair to compare it to the T2. But I understand that the difference is between the X2 and the T2 is that the T2 is a bit more durable, and it includes far more certifications. For what I'm using the headset for, I think the T2 is perhaps a little bit overkill, but it's nice knowing that the headset can get hit with a BB, or I can drop it, which I hopefully never do, and it won't end up with a big hole in it. Does this justify the massive increase of price over the previous generation? I think maybe not. I do think that the headset is overpriced, and that might be why there's a lack of information of this product on YouTube and other social media platforms. People are simply not buying the headset because of the cost. And with things like the rechargeable battery and charger not being included with this particular headset, that does seem a little bit penny pinchy on Sordin's half. The T2 is definitely an upgrade over the previous generation, with massive improvements with sound quality, the flex system and headband, and lower profile and weight. and I will continue using this headset. It's not something I'm going to not continue using. It is going to be my go-to ear protection from going forwards. I will be switching out the memory foam pads to the gel pads. That's one upgrade I recommend you get if you are going to purchase this headset, especially if you've got glasses on or anything like that. So in my case, it's goggles. Definitely get the gel pads. So I am happy with them. Not so happy with the price. Hopefully it's a buy once, cry once situation. I think what I might do is in 6 months' time, I will do another review of a long time usage review. So look out for that if you're interested. And I think that's it for my impressions. So thank you for watching my review. I'm sorry about the poor camera angles and sound quality, but it's the best I can do right now. And if you have any questions, pop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Cheers, guys.